The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
(1470 AM and 95.3 FM), the Health and Wealth Radio Network. Listen for A Touch of Gray, the talk show for adults, with Carol Marks and Michael Harrison, Saturdays at 1. Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM, W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
Want to lower your rate and payments, get rid of mortgage insurance, or get cash out? Find out about your best refinance options by tuning into the Get Mortgage Fit radio show with Alex Michaels and Carrie Kasem, Monday mornings from 10 to 11, where you'll learn everything you need to know about mortgage loans, today's rates, FHA, VA, and more. Call the Get Mortgage Fit show Monday mornings from 10 to 11 on WNN at 800-827-RATE, 800-827-RATE, or visit them online at newamericanfunding.com, NMLS 6606.
Whether I'm training for a marathon, kickboxing, or lifting, I train to add muscle and build my inner strength. I'm always working to increase my reps and beat my own best time. I am proud that I was born this way, driven. That's why I serve in the United States Coast Guard. You can find me on a Coast Guard cutter, along with my shipmates, who are a lot like me, driven and committed to our country and the safety of our citizens. We collect maritime intelligence. We catch drug smugglers approaching our coasts, and we're ready to respond to emergency calls from vessels in distress. 24/7, no matter our mission, we expect the very best from each other. We were born for this. We were born for the Coast Guard.
Were you born ready for the Coast Guard? Learn more at GoCoastGuard.com.
Sponsored by the United States Coast Guard in cooperation with the Florida Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We served our country like those before us.
The camaraderie is what kept me going. You know, it was a dangerous area. All of Vietnam was dangerous.
I didn't know what to expect when I got back.
For the first 10 years after I got out, no one would have known that I was in the service.
I got home, got married 2 weeks later, got a job.
We came back, built lives, families, and communities, but we still had challenges.
The carnage of war left an indelible mark on me.
I would have intrusive thoughts. Yeah, horrible nightmares.
Services and support that can help are available for veterans.
I went to the VA, talked to my doctor.
I started doing groups. I started doing one-on-one counseling.
We found ways to move past these challenges for ourselves and for our families. At MakeTheConnection.net, you can hear our stories and find tools and services available to you.
The more I talk to people, family, friends, other vets, the better I feel.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
El que San Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we going to do this? When St. Jude told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders, and now your focus is supporting this child.
There is not another hospital like St. Jude. The patient care is unmatchable. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
Talk health, talk wealth, talk politics, talk 1470 and 95.3 FM, WNN.
The opinions expressed in the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show, the place to fine-tune your swing, dress for the course, club, or cruise, and get tips on the best places to play and stay at the right price. Vacation or staycation, host Dan Shub, along with his expert co-hosts and guests, will tell you where to go. To play golf and vacation, that is. Now, here's Dan.
Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show. I'm your host, Dan Schub, and tonight, like we always do, we're going to talk some golf. We will talk some travel, and joining us just a bit later in the show, we got a couple of really cool guests. First up, we're going to be chatting with a fellow local guy by the name of Peyton Robertson, and he's an inventor. Invented a new product called Drop Stick, which is a pretty cool item for us golfers. It was in response to a new ruling by the USGA, and we'll find out a little bit more about it. But what's really cool about this guy is he's just a 16-year-old kid, and this is even not the first item he's invented. He's got a whole bunch of products that he's invented. So I had an opportunity to speak with him for all of about a minute at the golf show up in Orlando a couple of months ago, and promised I'd have him on the show and share this really cool product that he's got that's going to be useful and helpful for any golfer out there coming up in the next year or so. A little bit later in the show, we have a guest who will be returning to the show. He comes on every once in a while, a fellow who I have been friends with for the better parts of 6 decades, or going on 6 decades anyway. So I guess that's a pretty strong bond, and that will be Table Tennis Hall of Famer Mr. Scott Price, also known as Ping Pong Man. And he's going to be telling us, talking not actually too much about ping pong this time around, but he just came back from a vacation in Cancun. So we wanted to chat with him and find out what's going on in Cancun. We've been talking about Mexico quite a bit lately. Good, bad, ugly, and I think Scott is going to touch on a little bit of all of that, so I'm looking forward to that. Of course, a little bit later in the show, I got a couple of deals for you. We'll send you away someplace far away for a mere pittance, and just because that's what we do. Also some travel news about some neat things that are going on in the travel world that I want to keep you up to date on. And first, what we like to do is talk a little golf. Since it is the Golf and Travel Show, we kick it off with some golf. And not like I want to go back too much in the past. I always say this, talking about golf tournaments on this show doesn't always work because many of you not only listen to us live on Friday nights from 7 to 8, right here on WNN 1470 and 95.3 FM. But the show also reruns if you don't get to catch it on Friday, on Sunday at 6 at our sister station, WSBR, 740 AM and 96.9 FM and 103.9 FM. So talking about events that have happened last week or events that have happened this afternoon, by the time you guys hear about it, it's, sometimes a little bit old, but occasionally I like to touch on a couple of cool things. Now, first of all, the Honda Classic was last week. That's my favorite tournament of the year because it's across the street from my office, so it's simple for me to go to, but also because it's just one of the best tournaments around. And it's just been getting better year after year, and we always say how it raises a lot of money for some wonderful charities. And this past week, they had the privilege of having Tiger Woods decide at the last minute that he was going to show up. And what that does is it spikes attendance. I was out there on Friday and mentioned it last Friday, of course, and the crowds that were following Tiger around were enormous. And sure enough, they announced on Monday that they beat their previous attendance record by 10%, 203,815 in 2017, and in 2018, 224,642 confirmed spectators over the week. The good weather helped, of course, too, but what that means is that all of the local charities will be probably getting close to 10% more. They may not each get 10% more, but there'll be 10% more to spread around. So that's wonderful news. Speaking of wonderful news, Tiger Woods today announced that he will be playing at the Valspar Championship at the Copperhead over at Innisbrook next week, and then the following week at Arnie's little shindig that, of course, he's not there anymore, but of course it's still his family's place up in Orlando at Bay Hill. So pretty much the whole Florida swing Tiger's going to be playing in, and Jordan Spieth is also going to be playing at Innisbrook. So I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, Tiger's game is coming around. He played quite well this past week, and it's good to see. I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised. So, but good for him, good for the tour, good for TV, for all the sponsors. Coincidentally, last Sunday night, I had some folks, some relatives actually from Atlanta that came in for a wedding, and it was at Harborside. They was the party, and they were staying right there at the Wyndham, the new Wyndham, and it happens to be right across the street from the Woods, which is Tiger's restaurant, which I have been to many times. It's a great restaurant up there in Jupiter. I recommend it if you ever get a chance. But we met these cousins for a early dinner at around 6, and we left at around 8:15, 8:30. And don't you know, just a little bit after we left, Justin Thomas came in with his whole entourage to have a big celebration as the winner of the Honda, and we missed that. But I had a feeling something like that might have happened, but, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But it was just kind of cool nonetheless to be there. This week they've got the World Golf Championships going on in Mexico, and, of course, that's an invitational event, and I'm looking forward. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it so far, but this weekend, of course, I will be watching it. What's cool about the World Golf Tour events is it's, again, by invitation only, so only the absolute best golfers in the world get to compete. The rest of the golfers that don't get invited, typically this week, they would be playing in the Puerto Rico Open. However, they were not quite ready to host a tournament yet from the devastation, of course, from the hurricanes. So instead, they were holding a charity pro-am, and that was taking place today and Saturday, tomorrow. And a bunch of pros were playing in the event, and as well as PGA and LPGA and some celebrities too. And obviously the money that was raised was to help the victims of the hurricane. They were charging a pretty penny to play in this event, $10,000 per foursome to play with celebrities on Friday, and $20,000 per foursome to play with some of these pros on Saturday. But again, for a good cause. I've played golf in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a wonderful place, and I'm happy to hear that they're doing better. Last I heard, I think they had about 85% of the folks had their power back, which still, after this much time, is really horrible. I mean, every day without power when you live in the tropics is just terrible. But it is coming back. Most of the hotels, I believe, are open as well. So if you are thinking about planning a trip to Puerto Rico, I'm sure that they would be happy to host you there. And it's just a great place. And obviously they're dependent on tourism to continue with their comeback. So hopefully some of you will see fit to go visit that wonderful island. Also, interesting, the U.S. Open, there was an announcement made that in the future, starting this year, if there is a tie at the end of regulation play on Sunday, there will be a 2-hole playoff. And that is a major departure for the U.S. Open, which always has had, you would have to come back the next day and play a full 18 holes. And obviously, that makes a big difference. If there's 2 players only tied over 18 holes, one player may very well pull away. When it's a sudden death or a 2-hole playoff, there's not as much time for any separation between the two. So it's really going to change everything. Their reason for the change is they just feel that the world these days is a place that everybody is looking for immediacy. It seems that patience is just a thing of the past, and nobody wants to wait. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, most of us have to go to work on Monday, so they would play all day on Monday, and that whole TV audience now for, to actually find out who won this event, it's just gone. So, I kind of understand. Traditions in golf are kind of hard to go away from, but nonetheless, I kind of get it this time. And I can't say that I'm always a fan of everything that the USGA does. And we're going to be talking about what the USGA does in quite depth in just a couple of minutes, because our next guest, we're going to be talking about a product that was made for a USGA ruling. But in this particular case, I kind of think that maybe they made the right call. One last bit of golf news that I wanted to share. This came out yesterday, I guess. It was posted all over social media, so maybe you had a chance to hear about it, maybe you did not. And that was the photo that was posted on social media by Steph Curry, and it was a picture of his hotel room just totally covered in shattered glass. And it seems that what he said is that's what happens when you got to get some swings in your hotel room. And it seems that when I made a copy of this, he had about over 500,000 likes, and that was just in 4 hours time, and over 6,500 comments. And hashtag idiot, he says. So obviously he considered this to be a mistake. He is not like the rock stars of old, I suppose, that trashed rooms, and I don't know about NBA stars, but he obviously is a very accomplished and avid golfer, and he can't stand to not be able to play, and he's got to be practicing. And I would not be surprised if after his NBA career that he ends up trying out for some professional golf, if not at a younger age, then certainly when it's time for the Champions Tour. So interesting guy to follow, and hey, he's been bitten by it, so he's got to play. In any event, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we are going to be back with our first guest, Peyton Robertson, the inventor of Dropstick. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned, and we'll be back with more of the Golf and Travel Show. And we are back, and if your business needs industrial workers or if you're looking for work, you got to call Labor Finders. Labor Finders places for temporary or temporary to hire opportunities for skilled, semi-skilled, or general labor positions such as plumbers, electricians, concrete workers, forklift operators, hospitality, office clerical, and much, much more. Labor Finders has almost 200 offices nationwide. Near here in Boca Raton, they have offices in Homestead, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and in Jupiter. So if you need legal insured workers or if you're looking for work, call Labor Finders toll free at 800-864-7749. That's 800-864-7749, or visit laborfinders.com.
The deserts of Sudan and the gardens of Japan, from Milan to Yucatan.
And we are back. And as you've heard over the past month or two, I've been talking to several of the folks that I met at the PGA Merchandise Show back in January. Everybody who's anybody in the golf world is there. New products, new friends, old friends, we all get to meet. And I was fortunate to very, very briefly bump into a young gentleman who had a new product that was being introduced that I thought was pretty cool. And therefore, I wanted to share it with all of you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the inventor of a product called Dropstick, Peyton Robertson. Peyton, are you there? Peyton? Hello?
Yes.
How you doing?
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So before we go too far, I just want to ask, just in a nutshell, before we even talk about your product, what was the experience of being an exhibitor for the first time at the PGA Merchandise Show like for you?
It was incredible. I got to meet so many amazing people in the golf universe, and I got to get a lot of feedback about my product, and got to hear a lot about what people think. The exhibits there are just amazing, and I was really fortunate to be able to have a booth there and just meet some amazing contacts and people who would really be able to help me, and people who were really interested in the product as well. So I think we got a great response, and that's why I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the Dropstick and get it further out there.
Now, I can only assume, and from what I kind of know, besides being an inventor, and I know this is not the first product you invented, but obviously you must be an avid golfer too.
I really enjoy playing golf, and I play a good number of competitive golf tournaments, but I've got a lot of work to do. I'm always out there practicing, and I really enjoy the game, and I've learned a lot from it.
So you'll be better making a living at inventing products perhaps than playing golf for a living, is what you're saying.
We'll see. Golf is really I think golf is really a great sport that you can carry with you throughout your whole life. So I really appreciate the experiences that I've been able to get from golf, and I take it with me other places. So.
Now, you speak like a gentleman who's been around quite a bit doing lots of inventing and golfing and all sorts of other ventures, but you're just a young guy, right?
I'm 16. I'm a sophomore in high school. So obviously I have high school academics and all of that, but I do golf and inventing and on the side and all of that. So yeah.
And you are local to the show. We're here in Boca Raton, but you're in South Florida as well, correct?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's good because we like to promote the local folks. So now, as far as being an inventor, I mean, all of us come up with ideas and think of things, but obviously most of us don't do anything about it. So what makes you so different that when you come up with an idea that you actually decide to go forward and invent a product and launch it?
I've always really been interested in looking at what I can change and how I can make products more useful, and just with the experiences that I have, looking at products that can make things easier for people and can just generally make my surroundings better and easier for people. So, with the drop stick, I heard about the USGA rule change and thought that a product like this one would be really helpful for a lot of players, and it would be something that I think a lot of people would really be interested in having in their bags and would make the game more convenient and more accessible, which is ultimately what the USGA is trying to do anyways.
Now, first of all, the USGA has a lot of rules, and some of us know them all, and some of us adhere to them all, others not so much, and not everybody is thrilled with the USGA all of the time. And people perhaps, say nasty things or whatever, but obviously you took a different approach. You heard about this rule change, and it's Rule 14.3, and you decided to do something about it to make it work and to work with the USGA, I suppose. So first of all, before we talk about Dropstick, why don't you just explain to the listeners what this new USGA Rule 14.3 actually is?
Yeah, so Rule 14.3 deals with how a player has to take relief, say after hitting a ball either in an immovable obstruction or say when you hit it in a hazard. So basically anywhere where you would have had to take a 1 club length drop or a 2 club length drop before. Mm-hmm. And what 14.3 does, or at least the proposed change, obviously these changes aren't in effect yet. They will be in January 2019, mm-hmm. Assuming that it all goes through. But this, of course, is a proposal that the Dropstick is trying to attack. So any region where it used to be, say, 1 club length, so that would be areas where you don't get a penalty. So say you hit it on a sprinkler head, or you have an embedded ball, or you're next to some other man-made object, generally, it would be, instead of 1 club length, a 20-inch drop. So you're going to want to take 20 inches from your nearest point of relief. Players should be familiar with how to find the nearest point of relief. Mm-hmm. Generally, that would be no closer to the hole. So then you take a 20-inch area away from this point in any direction, no closer to the hole, and then in situations where you have when you used to have a 2 club length drop, so that would be when you were taking a penalty drop, say out of a water hazard or an unplayable lie, mm-hmm. Now it's going to be 80 inches. So you're going to get 80 inches in any direction from the nearest point of relief. The other change that 14.3 implements is now instead of dropping from shoulder height, you're just going to want to drop from just above the ground. So there's no need to, say, hold it from shoulder height and get a penalty if you drop it like from chest level or something. Instead, you can drop it from just above the ground. And the reason for this change is, at least according to what the USGA and RNA have said, is that they want to simplify and standardize the procedure. So, it's not fair for golfers who might be taller than others or for golfers who have longer clubs because, say, if you're taller, then you have more variability in where the ball can fall if you drop it from shoulder height. It has, a longer time to reach the ground and larger velocity when it hits it, and it could plug, it could bounce. All of that becomes a concern. So dropping it from just above the ground helps with that. And, also if you have longer clubs, then you get an advantage because you have a larger area in which to drop. So the 20 inches or 80 inches, at least having some kind of standardized metric, really helps with that. So then you don't have any of those concerns, and it can be fair for every player.
As far as dropping the ball lower, I know I have, and I'm sure everybody has seen when you watch on TV, sometimes they drop the ball once, they drop the ball twice. It doesn't, it rolls back to where it was before or whatever. So I think that will probably save a lot of time for all golfers, of course, as well as us who are watching the professionals on TV.
Yes, exactly. That definitely is one of their concerns. And like one of the concerns which the USGA cites is like examples where, as you said, after 2 drops, you get a third free replace. And like they're worried about golfers who take advantage of the system and drop it intentionally so it rolls out of the region.
Right.
And then get a third replace drop. Which obviously is totally legal under the rules now. So you can do that, but they don't want to incentivize that.
Sure.
So this just standardizes it a bit in that sense.
Okay, so now that we know what the rule is, and I've got my drop stick here, I got my sample right in my hands, but since we are on the radio, what I need you to do is to kind of paint a picture and describe exactly what this device looks like and how it's used and how it makes it easy for folks to abide by this new rule that's going to be taking place soon.
Yes, so the drop stick at its basis is a convertible alignment stick. So it has 2 functionalities, right? The first functionality would be as an alignment stick. So it looks just like an alignment stick. On the outside, you might not even notice, if not for the sticker. It fits right in your bag. It can replace the alignment stick, which you usually have and you might use on the range. But it addresses the USGA change by first unfolding to measure the 20-inch area. So it's 40 inches long total, but when you unfold it, it splits into a 20-inch and 20-inch arc. And then you expand it all the way, so the 2 U-joints, I think in the model that you have, are springs, are expanded all the way, and then you join the 2 ends to create a 90-degree angle. And that gives you a quarter circle in which you can drop the ball, and every point is going to be exactly at most 20 inches from the nearest point of release, so you can make sure you're taking the most advantage. And then also for the 80-inch area, so for the hazard case, since the drop stick is exactly 40 inches long, if you lay 2 drop sticks end to end, you'll get 80 inches. So you just need to lay it down and then flip it. And that gives you 80 inches from the nearest point of release.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. It also, obviously, it weighs almost nothing. So for those of us that have a heavy bag full of stuff, like I do, it's not going to add anything extra, which is very cool. It's also very durable. In looking at it, almost looks like a fishing rod, too, as well as an alignment kind of thing. It's what is this made out of, like a fiberglass or something?
Yes, so the inside, so the expanding part is made out of fiberglass, and also U-joints in order to join the fiberglass at the end. In the model that you have, the upcoming model will have springs instead, which actually makes it even lighter. So yeah.
Okay, so now that we know that everybody wants to follow the rules and nobody wants to be in violation, and all of us can be looking at our playing partners when you got a few bucks on the line, and you could be calling them a penalty on them if they don't have this product. So I'm assuming anyone who's listening is going to want to get a hold of a drop stick. So how are you doing right now as far as getting the product out into the market?